Hello and welcome. On behalf of myself, Jasmine, Stephanie, and Alicia, we would like to present our PowerPoint and presentation on children's behaviour supported by the guidance approach through a case study, teaching strategies, policies, and documents to support, and how it's important to have a positive impact on young children. We would like to acknowledge and pay our respects to the traditional and ongoing custodians of the land and waterways in which we meet today. We would also like to acknowledge the hardships that has caused disruption for the First Nations people, which has caused pain, suffering, but have continuously maintained unbroken spirits. We will continuously respect, learn, and connect to the land we call home, also known as country.
Lucy is a 2-year-old who attends full-time childcare 5 days a week in the toddler's room. Her mother, Julie, is a nurse and her father, Thomas, is an engineer. Lucy is dropped off early and picked up late in the afternoon. Her parents are immigrants from Italy and Lucy's primary language at home is Italian. Mornings are often rushed and hectic. Thomas usually completes drop-off as Julie works night shifts. On arrival, Lucy is often crying, highly distressed and clinging to her father. Thomas reports she often has little or no breakfast, or maybe only a small snack like crackers due to time constraints. When Thomas leaves, Lucy becomes extremely upset, often falling to the ground near the door. She may scream, kick, and hit when educators attempt to comfort her. Lucy is a 2-year-old who attends full-time childcare 5 days a week in the toddler's room. Her mother, Julie, is a nurse and her father, Thomas, is an engineer. Lucy is dropped off early and picked up late in the afternoon. Her parents are immigrants.
In relation to the case study, the educator's response included the following. After taking some time to calm down for Lucy, the educators did offer her some breakfast, such as Weet-Bix, toast, or rice bubbles. Lucy did have some rice bubbles as she was feeling very, very hungry after being very rushed in the morning. The room leader then continuously asked Lucy to join in after she finished breakfast for group time, as it is part of their daily routine. But Lucy was very resistant and did not want to join in because she still wanted some space to be by herself and to settle into the environment a little bit more. The room leader kept negotiating with Lucy and offering her a sticker as a reward, as a strategy to let her sit down and join in on the mat during group time. When it comes to the services response in relation to the case study, it included the following. The centre manager and educators do have regular conversations to Lucy's parents about the drop-offs that is affecting her behaviour. But when they have conversations with Lucy's parents, it's not followed through, as it is not reflected in the toddler's room, as there are no actions or strategies that are being taken in place. The team also have scheduled meetings to review the policies that they have at their centre, but don't always take place as they find it too challenging. Thus, they are finding it too challenging to change anything that needs to be changed. When analysing the case study, we must take considerations into account, such as theories, research, influencing factors, internal and external, and policies. When we see a case study such as this, such as Lucy, we must consider some theories. According to Maslow's hierarchy of needs theory, we can see that, backed up by research, how important sleep and nutrition is for toddlers. Lucy is rushed in the morning, so she does not eat breakfast. So how does this impact her? And the hunger, how does this impact her behaviour? When we consider the attachment theory, we are also considering the circle of model of security. So having those strong attachments to our educators for children is really important for having that sense of belonging, love, and care. And that makes a massive impact for children and their behaviour, especially if it comes to Lucy when she's having these really, really hard drop-offs. So having those sense of connection with educators is really important. When we also consider Vygotsky's social cultural theory, self-regulation, so giving Lucy the time and the self-regulation strategies to calm down, to kind of go to another space, for example, that's what we have to take into consideration. Trauma theory and ecological systems theory. We also got to consider that the service may not be welcoming. So these factors, these internal and external factors, that also she may have family and home trauma. And there's also family and cultural practices that they may have at home, but it's not reflected within the centre. So educators must also consider that policies from the NQS, such as 5 and 6, which is relationships, security and safety, the ECA Code of Ethics, the core principle of upholding ethical standards and ongoing learning, and the EYLF learning outcomes such as 1, 3, and the principle of critically reflecting and ongoing professional learning must be taken into account. References to Porter, the EYLF, the National Quality Standards, the ECA Code of Ethics must be all taken into account. Finally, I would like to hand the baton to Jasmine, and she will be talking about influencing factors. Thank you.
Now I would like to talk about some of the potential contributing factors that could be causing Lucy's irritable behaviour. So every behaviour is an attempt to meet a need. When we respond in a way that communicates supports for children, even when there is direct disagreement and powerful emotions, children need us to remember that they are good at heart and are always trying their hardest, even though it can be difficult. When we stop asking, how can I get this child to behave? And start asking the child, what does this child need to feel safe and settled in my care? So when we do this, we realise that challenge behaviour is an attempt to meet a signal, an emotion, and meet their needs. So with the potential factors, the first factor that I'm going to be talking about is internal factors, specifically behaviour guidance approach, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So there are 3 pillars of brain development for psychological needs. They include food, sleep, and physical activity. So now I will go into depth in the next slide about these key areas and highlight how this is evident for Lucy through thorough depth and research. The next factor that I'll talk about is food. Food can be a contributing factor to children's behaviour and can contribute to uncontrollable outbursts. One factor that may be an influence on Lucy's behaviour is her lack of food intake. As Lucy's parents may drop her off early and pick her up late from the service, lack of food may be a contributing factor, contributing to her outbursts and behaviour. As her parents are in such a rush, they only provide biscuits to Lucy in the morning for breakfast, as it is a quick and easy option as a small snack. Children's behaviour is greatly influenced by their diet. Processed food with high added sugars and additives can have detrimental effects on children's mood and behaviour. Fast blood sugar spikes in sweet biscuits or crackers brought on by processed meals can generate stress hormones, which can cause irritability, anxiety, and anger, sometimes referred to as hanger in toddlers. We must replace this with nutritious foods such as cereals and toasts for breakfast to increase children's focus, mood, and overall long-term health. Next, I will talk about sleep patterns as an internal factor. Children's learning, development, and growth are supported when their sleep needs are met. An infant or toddler's capacity to learn, control their behaviour, engage with others, and maintain their health while attending early childhood education and care services can all be impacted by the amount of quality of sleep they receive. Toddlers' daily lives depend heavily on sleep, which also affects their long-term growth and well-being. A child who gets enough sleep is better able to focus, absorb new information, engage in constructive social interactions, and handle difficulties and conflict. Sleep enhances learning and brings about biological changes that support children's growth, development, and well-being. Children who don't get enough sleep have trouble focusing, are less able to control their emotions and behavior, and may be vulnerable to illnesses, accidents, and injuries. At this age, sleep disturbances can also have detrimental effects on parents' and families' health and well-being. While early childhood education and care services, not every baby or toddler may feel exhausted or require a nap at the same time, so it is critical for educators to identify and address each child's unique sleep signs. Due to Lucy's rush morning, an internal factor may be that she is sleep deprived. As she has had a rush morning, Lucy's parents may have woken Lucy up early and got her out the door. She didn't have time for breakfast and may be still tired. This routine puts Lucy with uncontrollable kicking, crying, and screaming at the door when her father drops her off at the centre. This can cause Lucy to run off adrenaline in order to stay awake. Due to this, Lucy may be extremely lethargic, as she missed the initial window of rest or sleep and was unable to rest her body properly. Now I will start off by talking about some of the external factors, which include cultural and family practices and the layout of the room. So for cultural and family practices, the family may not have consistent drop-off schedules. So the lack of inclusive practice may be affecting Lucy's behaviour. So incorporating Lucy's cultural practices, perhaps a lullaby in her language of Italian, will allow her to feel inclusive in the service. The layout and the environment of the room. So the environment may be a contributing factor to Lucy's outbursts and drop-off behaviours. Factors such as the layout of the room, the noise level of other children at the service at the time, and the overall routine may be causing her distressed mood. To cater this, we must fix these things to improve her overall health, well-being, and learning. Now we'll talk about home and family trauma and Bronfenbrenner's ecological systems theory as an external factor. Since contact is one of the few ways that very young children can show traumatic stress reactions, the negative impacts of trauma unavoidably find their way into early education programs. Early trauma also affects early childhood education by limiting a child's capacity to learn and by causing trauma reactions that result in difficult behaviours that disturb the greater group of children. For Lucy, the communication may not be received to the educators about Lucy and the rush morning she has had and the fact that she has not eaten anything for breakfast. This can cause educators to become confused with the situation as Lucy becomes irritable after drop-off. Another contributing factor may be the transition between the home and the service. This relates to Bronfenbrenner's ecological systems theory, in particular the microsystem, as it includes Lucy's immediate environment, including her home and the service. This displays the outside of the child, not within them. Children are actively attempting to understand what is going on in their life. The EYLF's mission is in line with changing transition policies and practices from doing things to children and families to collaboration and consultation with children and families. Transition strategies that take into account each child's unique interests, skills, and capabilities enhance children and families' sense of belonging in the setting. Acknowledging children's transition processes entails valuing the present moment without placing undue emphasis on getting ready for the next phase of environment. Transition practices that are deliberate, courteous, and well-planned have an impact on who children become in a new environment. Stable drop-offs and consistent routines will help better regulate children's emotions. One way to do this is to have consistent educators during drop-off and pick-up times to allow Lucy to feel comfortable and build a relationship with the educator. Another way educators could make drop-offs more stable is in making sure educators have enough time to greet each child and family individually each morning and say goodbye when it is home time. Important transition tactics include calling children and families by name and sending out heartfelt greetings each day are positive approaches to build a sense of trust, belonging, and connectedness with families, educators, and families. Next, I will touch on Porter's model of human needs. So Porter's model of human needs comes from the textbook in Chapter 3. Maslow's hierarchy of needs served as the basis for the new model, which states that children's disruptive behavior is not the problem, it is the symptom. Food, rest, water, sleep, and other necessities for survival are examples of elements that may influence Lucy's behaviour. Prior to concentrating on addressing the high-level needs, we must attend to fundamental survival needs. If children's survival needs are not satisfied, they cannot flourish. Safety encompasses both emotional and physical security. Security, stability, trust, and support are a few possible elements that could influence Lucy's behaviour.
Thank you, Jasmine. In Lucy's case, there are several caregiver strategies that could support her during these difficult morning separations. As a 2-year-old experiencing distress at drop off, bringing a comforter from home, such as a familiar toy or blanket, could help Lucy feel a sense of security and maintain a connection to her home environment. It is also important for Lucy's dad, Thomas, to spend a few calm moments connecting with her before leaving. Given that their mornings are often rushed, this could include briefly joining in on an activity with Lucy, such as reading a short story together or building something simple at the Lego table. These shared moments, along with a quiet hug or gentle reassurance, can help Lucy feel emotionally supported and more prepared for separation. However, it is important that this interaction remains brief. Keeping the goodbye brief is essential as long or inconsistent departures may increase Lucy's anxiety. A clear and predictable routine will help her understand what to expect and support a smoother transition into the day. However, it's crucial that Thomas does not sneak away. Lucy needs clear cues that her dad is leaving, and it is important that he reassures her that he will return later in the afternoon to pick her up. This consistency helps reduce her distress over time and support her in feeling more secure within the child care environment. There are also several educator strategies that can support Lucy during these challenging moments, such as allocating a primary educator, which can help Lucy build a secure and trusting relationship with a familiar educator, providing her with consistency and a sense of safety each morning. In this scenario, after Lucy calms down, educators offer her breakfast. While this supports her basic needs, there is limited proactive support during the transition period itself. Rather than repeatedly pressuring Lucy to join group time in the morning or using rewards such as stickers, a more effective approach would be to allow additional time for play and emotional regulation when Lucy first arrives. This reduces stress and supports a calmer transition into the day. Educators could also gently support Lucy in becoming part of the solution. This could look like guiding her towards a familiar or preferred activity, such as drawing or inviting a familiar peer to play. Over time, this helps establish a predictable routine and also encourages independence. Whilst it has been noted that educators have regular conversations with Lucy's parents, these discussions are not always reflected in consistent follow through within the toddler room. It is important that strategies communicated are implemented in practice, as this ensures a consistent approach into managing Lucy's separation distress. Working in partnership with Thomas and Julie allows strategies used at home and in centre to align. Reassuring Lucy about when her dad will return is also essential. Using clear, simple language such as, "Dad will be back later this afternoon," can help her begin to understand the routine of the day. Overall, establishing consistency and predictability in daily routines will support Lucy in feeling more secure. This should be complemented by creating a warm and welcoming environment where educators greet Lucy and her family by name, use calm and reassuring tones, and where possible, greet Lucy in her first language, Italian. This can help her feel a strong sense of belonging while ensuring the physical space feels safe, familiar, and inviting. I will now pass on to Steph, who will justify why these strategies are appropriate.
Thank you, Alicia, for sharing those caregiver and educator strategies. My name is Stephanie, and I will be taking you through the justification of said strategies. I will split them into 4 main categories, including partnership with families, secure and respectful relationships, routines, and the environment. Communication with families is essential, By effectively communicating, collaborating, and exchanging strategies with Lucy's family, her needs during her transition into the setting can be adequately addressed. This partnership is fundamental to the Early Years Learning Framework, which states that children's earliest learning, development, and well-being takes place within families who are children's first and most influential educators. Additionally, it aligns with the national quality standards, specifically Quality Area 6, Element 6.1, which outlines that respectful, supportive relationships with family must be developed and maintained. The importance of these partnerships is highlighted through attachment theory, which explains the necessity of trusting, secure bonds with important adults as a basis on which learning can occur. This further put into practice through the circle of security approach, which is a model that helps both educators and families to look beneath children's behavior to see their relationship and emotional needs. The hands within this circle in the model here portray the support of an emotionally available adult that enables children to flow around the circle of security through exploration to attachment needs and so on. This model provides a basis on observing children's needs from a relationship perspective. As the diagram suggests, this is best done through communication and discussion with others. This involves seeing and guessing, observing children's behavior and guessing what they are expressing. Parents and caregivers know their children well. Because of this, their input into conversations can be significant. The significance of partnerships with Lucy's parents is further evidenced through Brenner's ecological model. The meso system is composed of the relationships and interconnection between a child's immediate environments, such as their relationship and the communication strategies between the family and the children's service. It is well documented that children's well-being vitally depends on the relationships and the responsiveness of their parents and other caregivers. As noted within the Early Years Learning Framework, Lucy's primary attachments within her family and trusting relationships within the settings are essential to building a secure base from which she can explore and build new relationships within her environment. Many of the strategies mentioned focus on secure, respectful, and reciprocal relationships. This aligns directly with the national quality standards, specifically Quality Area 5.1 that specifies that interactions with each child must be warm, responsive, and focus on building trusting relationships, while Quality Area 5.1.3 requires that each child is supported to feel secure, confident, and included. Additionally, this integral aspect of early childhood education is grounded in the expectations of educators within the EYLF to prioritize nurturing relationships through culturally safe and responsive interactions and providing children with consistent emotional support. Attachment theory proposes that these emotional bonds are foundational to a child's ability for exploration and play. When children cling to their caregivers, it potentially reveals that they do not yet expect their educators to provide the safety and security needed for them to explore, leading to their reluctance in leaving their caregivers to go and explore and play. This highlights the necessity for educators to build a secure attachment with Lucy, for Lucy to perceive her educators as a secure base from which she can move away from her caregivers and engage more with her learning environment. Additionally, the necessity of establishing this secure and respectful and reciprocal relationship with Lucy is further evidenced through Maslow's hierarchy of needs and Porter's extended model of human needs. Both models illustrate that growth and learning is dependent on the satisfaction of foundational requirements. In Maslow's hierarchy, a child cannot achieve love and belonging without first having their safety and security needs met. In Porter's model, safety and well-being is foundational based on the trunk of the tree, as you can see right there. By creating these relationships, meeting a child at their level, fostering their agency, or partnering with their parents, educators can aid Lucy in feeling comfortable within the center and can showcase their ability to be a safe haven for Lucy, so she is able to explore her environment without her primary caregivers. Consistency is essential for young children. By establishing clear and calm routines, anxiety based behaviors and a lack of security felt by young children can be reduced. A calm, supportive, and positive drop off routine can foster confidence in Lucy, easing her into the drop off process and aiding in her feeling safe in this new environment. One way that was mentioned in the strategies and that this can be achieved is that Lucy creates a solution that is then incorporated into her daily drop off routine, for example, engaging in an activity she likes every morning. Child friendly routines such as this allow children to have predictability, avoid delays and confusion, and foster a sense of agency. This practice aligns with the Early Years Learning Framework, which states that educators, in partnership with families, assist children to feel comfortable with the process of change and the various traditions, routines, and practices of settings they are moving to. Furthermore, the National Quality Standards Guide outlines that routines in relation to Element 1.1.3 provide predictability to assist children to feel safe, secure, and confident to explore and learn, directly connecting to Lucy's need to feel safe and secure within morning transitions. By allowing Lucy to co-construct her morning routine, educators actively foster her agency while demonstrating the guidance approach. This approach shifts the focus from control of Lucy's limitations to collaborative communication and problem solving. Rather than punishing behaviors of which educators may disapprove, this approach involves responding with compassion and communication, supporting Lucy's ability to self-regulate, solve problems, and build upon her social and emotional skills. The Early Years Learning Framework states that welcoming, safe, and inclusive indoor and outdoor learning environments reflect, respect, and affirm the identities and enrich the lives of children and families. The design and physical structure of early childhood settings is extremely important for children and their families to feel safe and supported when entering the building. The space must be designed to be aesthetically appealing, and facilities must be maintained, including lighting, temperature, ventilation, and adequate shade. Ensuring these settings fit these requirements can influence Lucy's behavior and attitude. Furthermore, this connects to the national quality standards. Standard 3, the physical environment, particularly Element 3.2, which requires a service environment to be inclusive, promote competence, and support exploration and play-based learning. In the Reggio Emilia approach, the environment is described as the third teacher, encompassing the design of spaces, places, and relationships that enable rich pedagogy and practices. Both indoor and outdoor environments enable children to develop a range of physical, cognitive, language, literacy, emotional, and social skills. This environment must mirror societal and communal values and be coherent with the experience of everyday life. By intentionally creating this environment, it can foster a space that encourages communication and can enable Lucy to feel welcomed, safe, and supported.
In connection to the case study and connecting to strategies, policy documents must be reflected. So, National Quality Standards, Quality Area 5, which is relationships with children, educators are important when it comes to supporting children to regulate their emotions, making them feel safe and supported, and most of all, comfortable. When having strong attachments with children of trust and care, this builds children's sense of belonging. Therefore, children can express their needs and emotions openly and expressively in a nurturing environment. For Quality Area 6, collaborative partnerships with families and communities. As early childhood professionals have the responsibility and duty of care to collaborate and build respectful relationships with parents and guardians. Their cultural values, decision making are shared, such as strategies to enhance children's learning and well-being. When connecting to the EYLF, it's important to consider learning outcomes and the principles. So, in the principle of critical reflection and ongoing professional learning, it is important to critically reflect, as it means that we are meaning making. It means that we're evaluating and deeply thinking about our understanding, about our pedagogical decisions, teaching strategies, and actions that are planned through perspectives of theories, ethics, and philosophy. Thus, we have to ask the questions like, what is my understanding of each child? And are their needs being met? And are their interests and behaviors being met? And what theories, philosophies, and understanding will shape my practice as an educator? Learning outcome 1 as well. Children have a strong sense of identity and develop their emerging autonomy and independence, resilience, and agency. If young children feel secure and supported when they have attachments with educators who are trusting and respectful and have awareness of their needs and rights in the early childhood setting, then they will feel like they have a sense of belonging, and they will be able to open up their emotions and share it without judgment and without hesitation. Learning outcome 3, children have a strong sense of well-being. Children become strong in their social and emotional and mental well-being by being able to communicate their feelings openly and trustingly to individuals about big emotions such as frustration, sadness, that they're in their environment, which is really important to consider. And finally, the ECA Code of Ethics, the core principle of upholding ethical standards and ongoing learning, ensuring that every child is included and treated with care, love, respect, and fairness in the early childhood practice, promotes equitable outcomes for all young learners and makes sure that children have a strong sense of belonging as their voices are heard and have autonomy to make their own choices and are acknowledged in their learning. Thank you.